So I show up on day 3, and I seize their building, and I seize their stock. Now, I don't need an order to do that. And just so you know, I could have done that on day 1. But, you know, I thought giving them a binding order would be good enough, and they'd comply. But they're not compliant. I need to take control over this. I move their stock to a different location, even though I've changed the locks on their building, because I don't want to worry about them breaking in the middle of the night and taking their stock. And I can also charge them for my costs of moving the stock and storage, so it's not going to hurt Health Canada's budget or my pension plan. And I conduct the recall, because I can bill them for the recall. So now I'm running these full-page ads. Is this company going to survive? No. No, it's not going to survive. Now, I also, when I show up, I issue them a violation ticket with the single charge of not following the recall order on day 1 when I dropped it off. I ordered you to recall, you didn't. Here's an administrative violation. Now, these administrative violations are being sold to us as, hey, this is good for you. Because if we go through court and charge you criminally, you know, look at the fines. You can like get $5 million fines and you can go to jail. But if we charge you administratively, the fines are small. Like, literally, they're limited to a couple of $1,000s. It really is small. So it's being billed as good for us. But the problem is, you're charged and you go to court, you're what? Oh, you're presumed innocent. Well, now that's interesting. But administratively, if you do nothing, then you're just deemed to be guilty. You're presumed to be guilty. In court, your 2 main defenses are honest but mistaken belief and due diligence. But for administrative offenses, this new law takes those away. It says you cannot raise the defense of due diligence. You cannot raise the defense of honest but mistaken belief. Well, okay, you're ticked off that you got this violation. Well, you want to go to an independent body. You don't get to go to court. Oh, but you don't get an independent body. You can appeal in writing to the minister. Basically satisfied them that you're not guilty. You cannot raise the issue, hey, this order shouldn't have been made. This order went too far. This order was stupid. No, the only issue is, did you violate the order?
Oh, come on.
That's the only issue. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. You can say the fine isn't in line with the published fine structure, but really, who cares about that? So now the minister is obviously going to find you guilty because you didn't follow the order, did you? But here's where the icing's on the cake. Is so guess who, if you've committed an administrative violation, who can decide to keep your property without asking a court if you can keep seized property? The minister. Do you see conflict of interest here? So the very person you have to satisfy you're not guilty knows, oh, if I find they're guilty, I can choose under this act to keep any seized property, and I don't have to go to court and ask for permission to keep it. So in that scenario, a court is never involved, and the state has now their building and their stock. Now, I'm also angry as an inspector, so I charged them criminally with not following the recall order on day 2 and 3. Because under this act, it makes it very clear every day you don't follow an order is a separate offense. So, but I don't just charge the company. This new law says every decision maker, so every manager, owner, anyone involved in not following the order, I can name. I don't even have to charge the company, and they're personally responsible. So I charge all the managers. I go to court. I convince the court this was reckless, this was dangerous, and I ask for multi-million-dollar fines, and the court, fines them each $1 million. Now, these people are all in their late 50s, the decision makers. Do you think, once you're bankrupted with court proceedings, at that age you can start over again? No. So what's their reward for this wonderful new law to protect us? They get to spend their old age in poverty. Do you feel good about this? Now, this can also happen, where there is a real danger. But the problem is it can happen where there's not a danger. It's not a requirement that there be a danger for them to seize. So we've got some problem, and all of this happens in secrecy. Now, my legal advice needs to change. If the Senate passes this bill, my legal advice has to change. Because now, the company approached me under the old law, and I said, well, they're wrong at law. If they want to push it, let's go to court. and let a court decide between you and them, and it would be fair and they can survive. Under the new law, I know as soon as Health Canada drops off that order demanding a recall for every product they've sold in 13 years, that the company's not going to survive. Okay, it's just not going to survive. So the company's done. But what I can do, because lawyers sometimes we're damage control, right? What I can do is I can at least try to keep the owners and managers from being personally bankrupted. And how do I do that? I get them to destroy their stock before Health Canada asks them to, shut their business down, jump as high as Health Canada says, so that they have no reason to charge you criminally. You've done everything you can do. Now, do you see why this would be so dangerous if Bill C-51 came back? And now it's the health food manufacturer, the health food store, and the manager's calling saying I have a binding order. I'm not just thinking, can I save the business? I have to think, can I prevent the managers and owners from being personally destroyed? See, it changes the groundwork just so dramatically. And it kind of reminds me of medieval times. The soldiers would come out of the castle, and I think people learned not to resist. Well, that's what the rule of law does. So, same thing here. Health Canada comes and takes control over your business without court supervision, and the lawyers have to adapt and kind of, okay, well, let's not resist. So that at least you're not bankrupted personally. That's how it works, okay? So, it's quite dangerous. And so if I ask you the rhetorical question, is this safe? Well, no, it's not safe, is it? That we have to pay attention. But we need to start thinking about freedom. And what is freedom? I want to share with you the Black's Law Dictionary definition of freedom, because it's actually quite precious. According to the Black's Law Dictionary, freedom is the state of being free, liberty, self-determination, absence of restraint, and my favorite, the opposite of slavery. Isn't that neat? But when you think about it, that's what freedom is, isn't it? It's the opposite of slavery. We can't beat each other up. We can't kill each other. We can't take each other's property. Only the state can do that. That was a joke, but anyway. Right? So, because you would think the state would have to give up that freedom. But if you actually, go home and get out a pen and a piece of paper and ask yourself, well, what freedoms do I absolutely are necessary for us to give up to live together? It's very few. And yet, over the last, 20, 30 years, the state, and it's accelerating, just passed more and more laws basically criminalizing things that we were free to do beforehand. And it's becoming all pervasive, almost every area of our life, not just in the area of food and natural health products, but every area. And it becomes particularly offensive when it's being done for safety, because it encroaches upon, our ability to basically have sovereignty over our own bodies. How we're going to nourish ourselves, how we're going to treat ourselves when we face a health crisis. I'm particularly upset at this time over what's happening with raw milk. Now, raw milk, a period where the state really isn't being aggressive here in Ontario, but in the other provinces are being very aggressive. About 6 weeks ago, I got a call from a lady in BC who, has a very small herd of cows that are all jointly owned in a cow share program. And the state had actually got an injunction where the court ordered her not to milk her cows. Now, if you know about, that'd be like saying, ordering you not to urinate. I mean, you can't not. And you can't not milk the cows. You can't stop just full stop. It's just, it would be cruel. So she obviously violated that order, not passing the milk on to the owners of the cows, but she kept milking the cows for humanitarian reasons. And so then she was being brought to court by the state for contempt of court. Okay? So, so that's why she was calling me, as the state's after me now, I'm facing contempt of court proceedings. And, at the same time, we've got in Wildwood, Alberta, Eric and Judith being attacked by the Alberta health authorities. And it was particularly offensive because of to what lengths the state was going to, actually getting physical with them, to seize a couple of liters of raw milk. So the first time it got physical, as opposed to just visiting the farm, is Judith is taking her van to drop off some milk at one of the herd owners, and she's in a private driveway, and 2 health inspectors come up and they want to seize this milk, and she doesn't want them to do that. So they remove her physically from the van, so they can go in and seize a couple of liters of raw milk. And then